Hello, welcome to my channel, and as promised last week, today I'm going to read to you my motivation letter that got me into the Erasmus Mundus program. And reading through, you will see that all the 5 ingredients which I described last week as essential for making an exceptional motivation letter are well captured in this letter of motivation of mine. And also reading through, you will be able to see how I was able to tell my own story in my own voice. So if you have not watched that video, I will kindly plead with you to go back and watch that video so that you'll be able to see the 5 ingredients that make an exceptional motivation letter. And then come back again to watch this video to see how I was able to translate what I wrote there, or the 5 ingredients that I discussed in the previous video, into my own motivation letter to see how they are well captured. And I'm sure that today you guys are going to like what you are going to read. And definitely I hope at the end of the video your home motivation letter will also be ready, furnished, and you are ready to submit it at a go. So in that case, without further ado, let's dive in straight into the letter. I started by writing my name, like Ayewale Oluwatobi Abraham, letter of motivation for MSc Infectious Diseases and One Health under the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. So this is what I wrote. Okay, and another thing I need to tell you, I wrote this letter at the beginning of the pandemic. So because of this, it was very much easier for me to have a storyline, to write. I only presented my argument based on the pandemic. So because of this, it's like a ready-made storyline for me, and because also it fits perfectly with my background, it was easier for me to write, to tell my story, and of course to sell my story to the admission committee. Don't forget that in every letter you are writing for the graduate school scholarship and application, you are selling yourself, you are pitching yourself, you are writing a kind of story to tell and to sell yourself to the admission committee. New and re-emerging infectious diseases remain the leading cause of death globally, with many new diseases being superimposed on endemic infections. Of significant importance are drug-resistant pathogens, which are re-emerging in the multi-drug resistant forms, including tuberculosis, HIV, and malaria. While viral infections such as hepatitis, Ebola, Lassa fever, and other zoonotic infections continue to threaten the lives and social stability of man globally. Of course, this can be more true than during the pandemic, where we have fear, insecurity, people don't even know what to do because we were hearing different rumors about the virus, about how it can spread, about how you can contact the virus. So everything was just in disarray, everybody was just disorganized, people were just running eta and sketa for their lives, and this is exactly what I try to capture in this introduction of mine. Of course, the introduction still goes forward as the incessant outbreak of new diseases and the humongous burden of existing disease afflicting man has heightened the need to study pathogens and other biological systems at the molecular level, to have the needed knowledge to speedily combat the challenges they pose and ultimately enhance human health. Acquiring expertise in infectious diseases and One Health will imbue me with an in-depth knowledge of pathogenesis as a means of conducting research which will further advancement in healthcare. Looking at this, the first paragraph, I try to capture the current states of the world, not just of myself, but rather I'm painting a picture about the world, about infectious pathogens, about what has been happening. For example, we keep having the reoccurrence or the re-emergence of many infectious diseases, and including both new one and some that were existing before, but they went probably into extinction, or as you may call it, and then they resurfaced back. Like we keep having something like this. I picked the picture of Ebola that emerged not as a new disease, but rather re-emerged in East Africa in 2015. Then you can come to that of Lassa fever spreading also in Africa, to the coronavirus in Asia, and to some other diseases being emerging around the globe. So this is exactly what I try to capture in this first line. Then I told them why I'm interested in the program. Of course, that's also stated clearly in my first paragraph. Now, from there, I talked about how my academic background fits into the program of choice that I am applying for. And I said something like, an avid interest in herb sciences inspired me to study microbiology in my undergraduates, where I gained exceptional theoretical and technical skills, which helped to develop my laboratory and analytical skills. My dedication to research and academic excellence embodied in my emergence in the top 1% of my graduating class, with a CGPA of 4.60 over 5.0, that then I put in bracket top 92%, that which is actually correct. And of course, winning the prestigious award, the academic prize for the best graduate student in the Department of Microbiology of Federal University of Technology, Minna, Nigeria. This feat has ignited my passion for knowledge pursuits through graduate degree towards becoming a leading voice in the field of virology and infectious disease study. During my undergraduate, I had fundamental exposure to courses in virology, molecular biology, pathogenic microbiology, which kindled my interest in virology and infectious disease study as a career path for advancing healthcare. So in this completed paragraph, I just demonstrated how my background fits into the MSc program. For example, talking about my academic achievement, being a first class student, I graduated in the top 1% of my class. Then I talked about the modules that I've taken so far, like the fundamental courses I've taken in virology, in molecular biology, in pathogenic microbiology, and how everything kindled my interest in virology. Like, I just want to be a virologist, I just want to study viruses, I want to know more about viruses. And of course, we are having a pandemic from a viral infection, so everything just fits, like everything just make me like a perfect candidate for this particular MSc program. So looking at it, and if you look at the description or the part of the ingredients that I mentioned last week, is you pitching yourself, talking about your academic achievements, talking about your academic background, how they make you fit for the program. And that's exactly what I've just done in this paragraph. Of course, I still went ahead. That's not just everything that I wrote there. I still went ahead, I still did try to discuss more about how I am the perfect fit for this MSc program. And let's see how I did that. So I said something like, a vital requirement to attain a bachelor's degree in microbiology is the industrial training, which I carried out at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, Nigeria. During the course of my training, I was attached to the medical microbiology laboratory, where I acquired clinical laboratory skills for isolating and identifying various microbial pathogens in clinical samples. I also serve as a research assistant to medical consultants carrying out biomedical research in the lab. Overall, my teamwork skills and my clinical investigative skills were enhanced. And this is very true, because I remember during that time, one of the consultants in the laboratory was actually doing her own PhD as well. And then she was like, Abraham, you are going to be my PA, you are going to be my assistant. And I really enjoyed working with her. Back then she was working on a fungus infection. Yeah, I think she was working on some kind of Candida albicans or something like this, studying it for a PhD program. So of course then I was serving as a kind of an assistant to her, you know. But then this was also, I was doing this while I was also working in the lab generally, doing my own internship. And of course many of you have this kind of experience as well. At least as far as I know, most Nigerian institutions, both universities and polytechnic, there is always a period for internship. And during this internship, you guys, you are going to do a lot of things. And let's say, I don't know, it depends on your field. But just like basically everything I learned during my internship, my 6-month internship, was just, let's say, identification of microbial pathogens in clinical samples. Specifically, I think I work with the urine sample. I work in the urinology? How do you call it? I think I work in, I don't know, maybe urinology. I don't know if that's correct. But yeah, I work on urine samples, I work on stool samples, I work on different departments. I went to Kempat, I went to we call it DOTS, Direct Observatory Test for tuberculosis. Yeah, I worked there, and a lot more, and this is exactly what I just tried to paint. And of course, I'm telling you this because there are also things that you've done or that during your internship, but maybe you think it's too little to capture. But trust me, this is exactly what you need. These are the experiences you need to talk about to get you into the program. So then I went ahead, I linked my internship, which you can consider as my professional background. I linked everything into how everything went into my bachelor's degree, and let's see how I did that. So I said my internship to a large extent influenced my undergraduate seminar, which was titled Molecular Mechanism of Drug Resistance in Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and my undergraduate research, which evaluated the therapeutic potency of polar and non-polar bioactive compounds from Andrographis paniculata against some selected pathogenic bacteria. It was from these studies I realized that understanding the molecular mechanisms in pathogenesis is crucial for pathogens elimination. This is very true because from my internship, I worked in DOTS, which I told you on. That's the Direct Observatory Test for tuberculosis. It was from there I have some kind of idea about tuberculosis, and I was really interested in the program or in this kind of research. So especially the drug resistance in tuberculosis. So because of this, when I got back to my university, I discussed with my supervisor, I really want to work on this. And he was really surprised, like, Abraham, why are you so much interested in this? He really wanted me to work on staphylococcus, but I said, no, I'm not going to work on staphylococcus. I really want to work on tuberculosis. Of course, so my thesis, my undergraduate thesis was basically on Mycobacterium tuberculosis, the molecular mechanism of drug resistance in this pathogen. Of course, and then for the research itself, it was based on testing antimicrobial efficacy of a particular plant, Andrographis paniculata. Really, I don't know the English name, I'm sorry, I've forgotten. But yeah, so we just test these extracts on different clinical samples and see if they are going. So exactly, this is exactly what I also tried to write here. Then I gave a kind of major takeaway. So from this study, it's not just about your interest, but exactly what is the conclusion? What exactly is the major takeaway from both activities? So, and here I just told them, like, from here, all I could just tell you is that if you understand the molecular mechanism of this pathogen, of how they interact with the host, then we'll be able to what? To eliminate the pathogen. We'll be able to design a kind of strategy to eliminate the pathogen. So that's just the major takeaway from both activities. Then I went further to also demonstrate how from there how I've developed, how I have evolved in my professional life. So I said to nurture my academic prowess in biomedical research, I sought for a placement in the medical microbiology laboratory at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital for my 1-year mandatory national youth service. During this period, I worked with medical consultants in various fields of medical microbiology and volunteered in their research works. This gave me an in-depth research experience in infectious diseases. And this is very true. You know, when I worked at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, everything was just lab-based. It was just in the laboratory. They would collect the samples, then they would transport them to the laboratory. So everything, I was stationed in the lab. But when I got to University of Benin Teaching Hospital, I was attached to some medical consultants. So because they are medical consultants, they are like experts and they are highly professional. So their own samples do not really necessarily go to the lab, but rather we have a kind of special lab for them. And this is this kind of lab that I was attached to work with. So because of this, it gave me opportunity to also go to the ward to see patients, you know, to collect samples by myself from the patients, and of course also to look at the medical history. I remember some of the consultants would just send me a message like, Abraham, go to ICU, go to this, and they check the history of the patient and tell me what you can, or what you think, or this and this, let me know your observation, let me know this and this. Of course, some of them will have already, visit the patient, they will have already see the patient, they will have already made their own deduction, but they just want me to also have a kind of contribution. And this is very good because it's really built my confidence. At the initial stage, I was very, very nervous, like, oh, what if I make a mistake? What if I say something that is not true? But of course, this is an investigation, and they just want to know our own, they just want to know if I can also contribute, or they just want to respect my opinion as well. Of course, I may not be right, but they are experts, and they've already seen the patient, they've already made their own diagnosis, and they just want me to collect the sample, and of course, just read through and see how what I've studied, how I can interpret it in the clinical settings, which really, really helped me. So from there, then I told, in this letter I also mentioned what exactly I gained. It's not just what I do or what I did, but then what exactly I also gained or I learned from this experience of mine. So I said, during this period, I worked with medical consultants in various fields of medical microbiology and volunteered in their research works. This gave me an in-depth research experience on infectious diseases. Furthermore, I actively work with both clinicians and patients in carrying out investigative laboratory procedures for patients with contagious diseases in the wards and outpatient clinics. This afforded me the opportunity to apply my theoretical knowledge in real-world settings. However, I have a strong desire to acquire adequate knowledge and skills needed to make meaningful contributions in the fight against diseases which afflict man. And it is for these reasons that I am seeking an MSc in infectious disease and One Health under the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. Again, this is the second time I am telling them why I am interested in the program. And I went on, I said, I have a keen interest. Now I'm talking about the future, or let's say what exactly I want to achieve from this program. Don't forget, I've talked about my past, I've talked about my academic background, how they fit into the program. I've mentioned my professional skills, how everything fits well into the program. Now I am telling them what I want to gain. Because if I tell them what I want to gain, I'll be able to tell them how I want to use this knowledge in the future. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I have a keen interest in understanding the molecular mechanism underlying host pathogen relationship, virulence factor, host immunological response, the molecular mechanism of host defense evasion, with the aim of developing innovative products for infectious disease control. I'm sure if you are not in the field, you might actually get lost here because these are very technical, and it's going to take people in the field to really understand what I'm trying to say here. But really, I have this concept from reading. So if this is another thing why I always advise people to read. If you don't read, you can't write, to be honest with you. So before you write your motivation letter, please and please and please try to read what's going on in the field. Try to make sure you understand the concept or you have an idea of what is going on in the field, not just from the bigger picture, but then when you dive deep into the program, that you know exactly what you are doing, what you are saying, and exactly you have the knowledge of the field. And that's exactly what I demonstrated here. So I went on and I said, as a young graduate with immense potentials, obtaining my master's degree in infectious diseases and One Health from universities of high academic culture like the University do Tu, University Autónoma de Barcelona, and the Hanover Medical School, with renowned researchers, will put me on the go-getting side of my long-term academic and professional objectives, which subsists in emerging as an established consultant in virology and infectious disease to both the public and the private research institutions. Then again, I'm highlighting what I want to gain from the program. I said something like, I want to gain an in-depth knowledge of pathogenesis and immunology as a means of conducting research which will further advancement in healthcare. Again, it's like trying to re-emphasize, this is why you need to pick me, this is what I want to gain from the program, but stating them in different voice or with different tone, or let's say with different energy or different vibes, as you may put it. So then I went on, I said something like, I'm confident the MSc will prepare me for the rigor of full-time research in virology and infectious disease study during my PhD. I believe the degree would give me the opportunity to broaden my knowledge in advanced topics in molecular biology, virology, and immunology, and it will enhance my scientific writing skills, hone my ability to design experiments, and to conduct hypothesis-driven research. The MSc program also provides intense training in other areas of infectious disease, which I consider essential to suit my long-term goal. Don't forget, I've already stated what my long-term goals are: being a consultant of virology and infectious disease to both the public and private research institutions. That's exactly what I stated, and now I'm telling them how what I will gain from my MSc program will help me to achieve this long-term goal of mine. Of course, if you also read between the lines, you will see that I have stated my short-term goals as well, which is to pursue a PhD immediately I finish my MSc. So it's like I'm already giving them this hint on what to do, trying to map out a kind of picture for the future. And that's exactly, if you read through, this is exactly what my letter is stating here. So then I try in the summary or in the concluding paragraph, I have something like, without any iota of doubt in my mind, I'm confident of committing my future to the infectious disease and One Health program, knowing that it will offer me the ingredients that will make me an indispensable asset in the fight against infectious diseases. Then I say something like, furthermore, this is the concluding paragraph now. Furthermore, with the opportunity to live and to study in a cultural diverse environment. Don't forget, I told you as an Erasmus student, you are coming from different parts of the world. Like, there is no special quota from those coming from Africa or coming from Asia or coming from Europe or coming from the America or coming from anywhere. Like, everybody, the opportunity is wide open. Everybody, you stand the same chance. There is no special privilege for anybody. All of you stand the same chance. It depends on how you are able to pitch your story or to the admission committee on how qualified you are that will get into the program. It's not like this is for those coming from this country or this is coming from, no, there's nothing like that. Everybody, you are open to the program, you are open to the contest. So I said something like, furthermore, with the opportunity to live and to study in a culturally diverse environment and to brainstorm with intellectually sound minds, I have no doubt that the MSc degree under the Erasmus Mundus scholarship is the ideal step in the pursuit of my career in infectious disease study. Knowing that it will present me lots of research opportunities on which I can lay the foundation for an exceptional career in virology and infectious disease research. Like, my God, what a way to conclude. Like, you are already sure, like, it's like having a kind of assurance that they are going to pick you, and if they pick you, this is exactly what you want to do. You really want to go into research. You really want to understand how pathogens causes infection. You really want to understand the host pathogen relationship. You really want to understand how you can stop. You really want to understand the host pathogen relationship, and you want to see how to stop this menace of re-emerging infectious disease by producing novel drugs and whatever and the likes. So this is also why I encourage you guys to like tell your own story in your own voice. Use your experience, how your experience has shaped you into who you are today, how you've evolved into who you are today. Use this experience, translate it to your writing when you are writing. You don't really need to sound like, oh, I come from a poor country, oh, I come from a financially disadvantaged family, oh, I come from a very poor background. This won't sell your story, but rather how you've evolved and how you've emerged in your career, in your profession. These are what are vital and important into getting you into the Erasmus program or any other scholarship you are applying for. Unless they tell you to, unless the admission committee or the guideline states it clearly that you should mention why you deserve a kind of financial aid. I don't really think it's important for you to be stating, oh, I'm from a poor background, oh, not selling a pity story, but rather you are selling a story of how you've overcome, how you've emerged, and how everything has shaped you to be who you are today. So, and I hope you guys like what you've heard from me. I hope you guys heard what you heard from me. So it is very important for you to demonstrate knowledge of the field. So from here, this is the summary. One, it is important for you to read before you write, so that you are going to have a knowledge of the field. Two, it is important for you to also state everything you've done. Like, make sure it is methodological. Make sure you state everything stepwise. Don't jump. For example, your letter will be in disarray. If, for example, you talk about your bachelor's degree first, then you go back to your internship, then you go back to your IT, like things will not be organized. Make sure everything is organized. For me, I prefer to go paragraph by paragraph, and at the end of every paragraph, state it clearly what you want them to understand. Like each paragraph should have a summary. I believe this is the best way of writing. Each paragraph should have a summary of what is important to you.